great earth. Let us just take a few moments in the silence, and then I will close the prayer to listen to your heart's desire. Thank you, Great Spirit, Great Mystery, Source Energy, God, whatever that word is for us that describes that essence, that one power and presence that animates and breathes all of us. We're so grateful to be meeting today, and we bless each person, those who are here now and those who are yet to come throughout the 2 days of this meeting. We cleanse our hearts and our minds and join our souls together as one with one purpose to fulfill the divine destiny of this planet. We release this prayer, and so it is. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Reverend Carol.
My pleasure.
Okay, we'll move to my opening presentation.
And can you make me a host, please?
Mac has to do that.
Oh. Mac, can
Kalesh have made you the co-host. Yep.
Yes, thank you. So I wanted to talk to you about how we build belief in a vegan world by 2026. It's only when we believe something that we will work for it with every fiber of our being. And so the way I want to address it, I've always told you about the new story of humanity and how we belong exactly as we are, and that we are in this transition phase from a climate heating to a climate healing species. And when you are in a transition phase, people feel anxiety. They know that there is something different going on. And they want to, clutch to something that they know. So it's normal for us to do this. Okay? But I want to give you an example, an analogy from my life as to what happened to me way back in 1993 when our kids were very young. My wife had gone to an exercise class and I was watching the kids, and it was early morning, and I had just bought a brand new car. So it was basically technology, right? Brand new technology. A brand new car, brought it into my home. And the next morning, the car caught fire. I didn't know that the car caught fire because it was in the garage, right? And I was upstairs making coffee, and I was on the phone with a friend of mine talking about making the internet faster, actually. and my son comes running out of the room above the garage. They were playing right above the garage. In that, you see those little windows there, right above the garage? That's where they were playing. So the son comes running out and says, "Dad, there's smoke coming out of the vents." And it was early fall, and it was a cold day, and the heater had just come on. And I said, "It must be the heater." So don't worry about it. Go back. He went back. Then he came running out again, and he said, "Dad, there's lots of black smoke coming out of the vent." And this time I took him seriously. I went and looked at it, and sure enough, there was lots of black smoke coming out of the vent. I ran downstairs and I opened the door to the garage, and the car was spitting flames at me. And I knew that there was nothing I could do immediately, there was nothing I could do except get my kids out of there as quickly as possible. My only thought was the life in the house. What are we going to do about saving life in the house? Okay? And the rest, I didn't care. So I hit the alarm and I ran out, and the policeman came within a few minutes, and he took this picture before the fire engine came. The fire engine came another 5 minutes later, so people responded, and, we put out the fire and we rebuilt the home. It took us 8 months. I'm telling you this because there is something very similar going on in our planetary home. This is not an exaggeration. Okay? I'm telling you that there are, so 2009, this was just a couple of years after we started Climate Healers. People were saying, the scientists were saying, there are 3 fires going on in our home. And those are the 3 fires. They were talking about nitrogen loading. They were talking about climate change was a fire, and it was a very small fire. And biodiversity loss was the big fire. So those are the 3 fires that they were talking about in 2009. And I went vegan in 2008 when I realized that this was very serious. What was going on was very, very serious. And whatever I could read, whatever I could understand, going vegan was a solution to it, whether it was biodiversity loss or climate change or nitrogen loading. Going vegan was a solution to it. So I went vegan for that, for the environment. Then by 2015, they were talking about 4 fires. So land use change also became like, yeah, it's gone over the limit of what we should be doing. Okay? And now, it's been refined over time. And see, I assume that scientists are trying to do the best they can with what the data that they have. And now they're saying in 2023 that there were 6 fires going on the planet. Yeah, 6 fires, and I'll go through those in detail. So you can see the fires coming closer and closer and getting bigger and bigger. So initially you may say, I didn't know that there was a fire. Then when I went and looked, there was a fire. Okay. Now what do? We have to save life as quickly as possible. Okay? That's the instinct I have. And I've shown this before in my previous talks, where we talk about how humanity has been heating the climate for the last 10,000 years. Our ancestors have done a great job heating the climate. But we are the generation that has to decide whether to continue heating and thereby kill off all life on Earth, including all human beings. And if we go to like 3 or 4 degrees Celsius, it will certainly happen. Or we deliberately try to cool the climate, deliberately try to heal, put out all 6 fires that we have on the planet. And we are going to do it. We are going to do it, whether we do it now or tomorrow, or next year or year after. We are going to put all our heads together to make it happen, okay? So that's what I call the greatest transformation in human history. It's absolutely, in my mind, it is absolutely going to happen. The only question is when is it going to happen? And who's holding us back from doing it today? And what can we do about that? That's the only question we face. Okay? Understanding this dynamics of how to do it. But we are going to do it. So that is what I call the greatest transformation in human history. And the sooner we start doing that, the smaller the fires are, and we can put them out easier. The longer we wait, the fires are going to get bigger and bigger. Okay? So that's what we face. And it is the land use change. What we have done to the earth is the major reason for all the fires on the planet. And it's also the major opportunity for solving the problem. And you can see it's supposed to be a blue-green planet, but it's now got a brown midriff. And it's brown happening all over the place. Okay? And that's mainly because of animal agriculture. So I'm taking this data from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the 2019 report on climate change on land, that shows you what percentage of land is used for different purposes. And it also shows you that we human beings have pretty much taken over the planet for ourselves. And there's very little left for wild animals. So I've put this on a map so that you understand how we are using the land, okay, how we use the earth. So we are, if you take all the land that we are currently using for monocultured trees, so this is for timber or paper, which are called timberland. And if you put it all in one spot, it'll cover all of North America, all of Central America, and a little bit of South America. It's about 23% of the land area of the planet. Original forests, so-called original forests, where wild animals are still able to live, is only about 9% of the land area of the planet. So as you can imagine, when you take away habitat from wild animals, they die off. Or they try to encroach on our land and they get killed when they do that. So that covers all of the Americas. Then comes what we do with the food system and the fuel system. Okay, if you take all the land that we are currently using for plant foods that we eat directly, which constitutes 85% of the food we eat by total weight, by dry weight, and if you put that in one spot, it will cover Australia. It's about 7% of the land area of the planet. All the cities, all the railroads, all the highways, all the built land, if you put it in one spot, it will cover Madagascar, about 1% of the land area of the planet. The biggest chunk is for raising animals for food. And raising animals for food is so inefficient that to get just 12% of the food we eat by weight, we are using 43% of the land area of the planet, covering all of Europe, most of Asia, and a little bit of Africa. So that's the red blob. And the deserts, which is in the middle, which is land that used to be forest, that used to be greenery that we converted to deserts, mainly through animal agriculture, covers the rest. And the reason we know it's mainly through animal agriculture is today there is desertification happening, and it's mainly through animal agriculture. Okay, so we see it happening today in front of our eyes. So if you did this with the earth, if you put all the land that, in one spot like this, and you look at where is the carbon on land, where is the carbon stored on land? And we know that there is 3 times as much carbon on land as in the atmosphere. You will notice that almost all the carbon is in the Americas. Okay, so 98% of the carbon is in this white blob area. Only 2% is in the grazing lands and deserts. And we know that climate change is caused by excess carbon in the atmosphere. So we can clearly reverse climate change if we just bring back the forests that used to be there on the grazing lands that we are currently using for raising animals. This is simple mathematics to understand that. I'm saying if we can do that, we can reverse it. The question is, can we do that on Earth? Can we bring back trees on Earth? We have cut half the trees on the planet. Okay, there used to be 5 to 6 trillion trees. Now there are only 3 trillion trees. If we cannot bring back trees on Earth, what in the heck are we doing spending $1 trillion trying to bring life to Mars? So, and we know that we can do it because there are examples of people bringing back the original forest that used to be there. I'm actually going to one next month called Southern Forest. So the 6 planetary boundary transgressions, the 6 fires that are there on planet Earth, if we all go vegan, we can put out all 6 of them. That's the beauty of the vegan transformation. And when I first said this, to Carl. Carl said, hey, don't say that. It sounds too good to be true. And I said, well, it happens to be the truth. What do you want me to do? So we decided I'm going to have to say it. I said it, at the Oxford Union debate. And by the way, we won the debate, 112 to 84. And, if you listen to the arguments from the side that wants to remain as they are, the other side from the Oxford Union debate, you will notice that they have nothing. They have no rational reason to stick around where they are. So the facts are all on our side. And basically, it's the planet telling us, give up. You have to go vegan. You have to stop abusing other creatures on this planet. Okay, so all 6 of these fires, I'll start with the least violated transgression, which is freshwater change. So if you bring back the forests on that grazing land, that will that will actually clean up the water cycle. So that freshwater change fire will go back to being green again. So this planetary boundary transgression comes from the life support systems of the planet. So there are 9 safe areas that we need to stay in if we want to maintain life on the planet forever. And you remember the stratospheric ozone depletion? That's one of those that are in green right now. And that used to be red in the 90s, early 90s. And they discovered it's because of the chlorofluorocarbons in the atmosphere that had eaten up the ozone layer. And they found a fix for it, a techno fix for it. And the ozone layer is now healing. The ozone depletion is now, it's now in the green zone. Okay. So, but that was a techno fix that maintained civilization as we know it. Now, for the last 30 years, we've been trying to figure out techno fixes for these other fires. Because when we fix the ozone hole, we actually caused climate change to happen too with the new compound that we put in place. Okay, so we fixed one, but it caused another problem. But that other problem was caused by lots of other things. So this is why our entire way of life is now in question. And this is why the vegan transformation is the only way out. So freshwater change, okay, is now orange. Now, the other 2 greens is atmospheric aerosol loading. They think is still green, so we can add a little bit more particles into the atmosphere without killing off all life as we know it. Ocean acidification, they think it's still green. Even though in the ocean, corals are dying off, but they're attributing it more to temperature change and not to acidification. Then land system change is red. And if we return the forests on the land that we are currently using for grazing animals, that will go into the green zone again. Then comes climate change. So climate change is not even the worst. So why is there so much media attention to climate change and not to any of these other fires? Because they think they can fix climate change with a techno fix, and they can make money off of it. They're not interested in preserving life as we know it. The interest is mainly in preserving the system as we know it. That's what our leaders are trying to do. I'll give you a parallel to this, about to what's happening today, and you'll understand why they think like this. But anyway, climate change is only the 4th worst fire, and that we will know we can reverse if we bring back all the trees that we cut. Okay, so that will also go into the green zone. Next is nitrogen and phosphorus loading. And that comes from the fertilizers that we use for growing crops. And that will also go into the green zone if we don't have to raise crops to feed animals. Because our animals are eating half the crops we grow. And we don't need all those crops. We need a little bit maybe to go from 85% to 100% for the plant foods that we need to eat. And therefore, when we stop animal agriculture and we go vegan, we can reverse that. Then comes chemical pollution and novel entities. So novel entities, we complain about the 50 billion tons of carbon dioxide we add to the atmosphere. Well, we are actually putting 250 billion tons of chemicals into the environment every year, 5 times as much as CO2. And so that's about 30 tons per person per year. It's like 30 elephants worth of chemicals into the environment per year. And the good news is that when we bring back the trees that we cut, those trees can absorb that chemical pollution, store them in their trunks, and they'll clean up for us. Okay, so they'll clean up the environment for us. And simultaneously, when we eat plant foods, we are going to reduce the amount of chemical pollution we consume by 2 orders of magnitude. Okay, so we know that. So all of these fires, all of these transgressions impact biodiversity. Wildlife is dying because of what we are doing. Wildlife is dying because of what we are doing to the land, what we are grabbing from the ocean. So when we go vegan, we will return 40% of the land back to nature, as well as the entire ocean back to nature. And that will allow wildlife to recover. So there is a chance that they will recover. But if we keep doing this until 2026, it will be very hard for them to recover. And this is why I say we are going to have to go vegan by 2020. We have no choice if you want to live. So it's like, once you discover that there are fires, you have to change your routine. I wasn't thinking about making my coffee once I discovered the fire. I was running out of there with my kids. So this biodiversity loss, because everything affects biodiversity loss, animals are dying at a very fast pace. And so the World Wildlife Fund Living Planet report said that between 1970 and 2018, we wiped out 69% of wild animals. And I said, this is a cause for alarm, And this is like discovering that 69% of our cousins have been killed off. We don't sit around saying, oh, well, there's still 31% left, so continue. No. You say, stop it. We have to reverse this. And so this is the realization that we need to come to make this happen. And climate change is, as I've said this before, climate change is also threatening to become the number one fire if we allow these nonlinear feedback loops to trigger. And there are 6 of them that we do not know whether they are triggered or not. This is why it's so urgent for us to take action. And climate change also is telling us to go vegan as quickly as possible. My calculations are saying that if the world goes vegan, we will literally see the climate cooling, even though we are still going around in cars and driving, and doing all our other activities as we do today. You'll see the climate cooling because the vegetation will soak up that extra CO2 from the atmosphere through photosynthesis. And this is a lower bound based on what is already happening today. So I can calculate based on how much vegetation is already being eaten by the animals. And this bathtub model shows you how we should be addressing climate change. And so the thing is, we know this. This is all data from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and I've added this drain to the bathtub. So the bathtub represents what is happening in the atmosphere, and then the faucets represent where the sources of the carbon dioxide or greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And then I've added this drain to the bathtub that represents the opportunity cost. It represents the fact that if we stop animal agriculture, if we stop the killing machine, we can bring back the forests. And when we bring back the forest, it will soak up CO2 from the atmosphere. So this is an estimate based on that. And so every number here corresponds to what's happening in reality. Okay, so 1,100 liters of water in the bathtub represents the 1,100 billion tons of CO2 we have added to the atmosphere, CO2 equivalent we have added to the atmosphere since 1750. 35 liters per minute of the water coming from the burning machine faucet represents the 35 billion tons of CO2 we add to the atmosphere every year. So 1 liter is like 1 billion ton of CO2, and 1 minute is like 1 year. Okay. Then the burning machine faucet is connected to the aerosol tank, and the aerosols are cooling gases that we pour into the atmosphere when we burn fossil fuels, mainly when we burn fossil fuels. And they are masking 1/3 of the heating. So this is why the aerosol tank is 350 liters, which is roughly 1/3 of the 1100 liters in the climate bathtub. And this is connected to the burning machine. So when we turn off the burning machine, you're going to get some of the aerosols will disappear, which means that the heating will happen. So that you lose your cooling mask when you do that. And most of these aerosols are sulfur dioxide molecules, which become sulfuric acid, and but it's acid rain. So it's not good to pour them into the atmosphere. But we have been doing it. Now, what happened is that 3 years ago, the International Maritime Organization decided to tighten the sulfur content of fuel that people can burn in ships. And Jim Hansen wrote a paper this year saying that the recent heat wave that we have seen, the last 6 months have been off the charts in terms of temperatures. And he's saying that that is maybe due to the fact that the IMO tightened the sulfur content. And therefore, we are getting less aerosols into the atmosphere from the ships. And so you ask, I mean, is this they didn't know what was going on? Do they not understand these things? Do they not understand this could happen? And do they not know that based on the model, you need to be shutting off the killing machine as quickly as possible? Because that's what this model is saying. Because this killing machine, the animal agriculture engine, is pouring 15 liters per minute. So 15 billion tons of CO2 into the atmosphere per year. That's about 30% of the total. Okay, so that's what everyone says. It's about 30% of the total. It's not a problem. 70% is coming from fossil fuels. So let's focus on that. No. When you look at the model, it's telling you turn off the killing machine as quickly as possible. Because if you turn off the burning machine, you're going to get the aerosol tank opening up and pouring all that water into the bathtub, and the baby will drown. So all life on Earth will die if you do that. Instead, if you shut off the killing machine, it will open the drain of the bathtub and start draining the water from the bathtub. So that's 45 liters per minute potential. So for every 1 liter per minute that you turn off the killing machine faucet, it releases 3 liters per minute from the bathtub into the tank below. And so this is why when you shut off the killing machine, you're going to have 35 liters pouring in from the burning machine and 45 liters pouring out of the bathtub. So effectively, you're going to get the bathtub draining by 10 liters per minute. If you did nothing, you'll have the bathtub filling up at 50 liters per minute. So the effect of turning off the killing machine is a reduction of 60 liters per minute, which is 120% of the 50 liters per minute. This is where the 118% comes from. Okay? And so this is clearly telling us turn off the killing machine as quickly as possible, because there is nothing that does not improve when you turn off the killing machine. And so going vegan is a no-brainer. But to understand why it's not a no-brainer for most people, I'm going to recommend a movie called Downfall, the 2004 movie. So in April 1945, as a nation awaits its downfall, what happened in the bunker? So it's about the last 4 months in the bunker, underground bunker of the Nazi regime. And you see the two characters here. This is Bruno Ganz, who acts as Hitler, and behind him there's Albert Speer. And it's fascinating that they put these two in the promotion, because Albert Speer was the one who was told to go and destroy every home, every building in Germany. It's like a scorched earth policy, is what Hitler wanted. He wanted everything destroyed so that the invading armies don't get access to those resources. And Speer was saying, hey, what happens to our people? They won't have any resources either. They'll die off if we did that. And Hitler said, I don't care. We lost, which means we don't deserve to live. Okay, so that was his attitude. So his attitude was, and Speer actually disobeyed him. He did not implement that policy. He pretended to implement the policy, and then he delayed it and delayed it. And finally, he told him, look, I'm not going to do that. And Hitler didn't do anything to him because he was at that time more concerned about other things. So in the bunker, the elites were actually partying. Okay? So they knew that the war was coming closer and closer to them, and the end is near. But they were partying in the bunker. And outside, people were fighting. Right outside the bunker, people were fighting and they were getting killed. Does that sound familiar? That's exactly what's going on here. Okay? This is the downfall of what we call Western civilization. I really think it's not even, it's a global civilization. What we call Western civilization. It's the downfall. And even today, there was an article in New York Times saying there is a 100-year extinction panic. It's back, right on schedule. People are panicking. They're saying, oh, we cannot deal with this anymore. And we probably are going to die. And what is happening in among the elites? They're partying. They have built bunkers. So Mark Zuckerberg has built a bunker in Hawaii, and there he's raising cows on macadamia nuts. And you know why he's raising them on macadamia nuts? Because he knows if the cows eat grass, they're going to be full of toxins. Whereas trees filter the toxins, and by the time the water gets to the nuts, it's as pure as it can be. So this is why he's feeding his cows macadamia nuts, and he's feeding them 10,000 pounds of macadamia nuts per cow per year, in addition to all the other grass that they eat. I'm sure they're not standing around eating just nuts. They're eating other things too. So he's doing that, and he's giving them beer to digest the nuts. And he thinks it's now clean beef, high quality beef that he's eating. And he's built a bunker. So it's just the same as what was happening in 1945 in Hitler's bunker. The elites are partying, whereas people outside, they are suffering from climate, from extreme weather. I mean, they are migrating. People are migrating to our borders in the US, and they are being shipped off to New York City. So if New York City is concerned about migrants, they should be addressing this entire problem. Should be trying to make the whole world go vegan. Okay, that's the only way out of preventing migrants from coming in. Because you cannot tell these people, hey, why don't you go look up Google Maps, and see where you're going. They don't have any of that. So they are the ones who are really facing the brunt of the war against nature. That's what Western civilization is doing, conducting a war against nature and looking for techno fixes to continue the civilization. And I'm sure the elites have decided that if you cannot do a techno fix, you're not smart enough and you don't deserve to live. Who knows what's going through their minds? But anyway, we have to change this. And the good news is that going vegan is something that any one of us can do. We don't have to wait for people to tell us. We can do this ourselves. And just like what happened in post-war Germany, where Germany became the closest friend to Israel, okay? Because they realized that they had done something really, really wrong. And therefore, they were trying to make up for it. So Germany was one of the closest friends of Israel when the state of Israel was formed. In the same way, we are going to become the closest friends of wild animals. And we are going to be bringing them back. And this is what the climate healing phase is about, where we have to take care of ourselves and take care of the animals, the wild animals, and do it out of love, because they are our future. If they thrive, we will thrive. And once we do that, then we can get to the climate harmonizing phase where we are all equal. So the ego has to become the seva phase. Ego is about, man over woman, etc. Now seva phase is we serve the animals. And you'll notice in the schedule that we sent out for this convergence, The talks were all color-coded to correspond to these 7 strategic initiatives for creating a vegan world. Number 1 is education, education, education. So we have to tell people, we have to teach people, show them that we are in this phase and we are going to be transforming to the climate healing phase, from climate heating to healing. And so we have to tell this story. And the next thing we need to do is to heal ourselves. Because it's only when we heal ourselves, physically, mentally, and spiritually, that we will be in a position to heal the planet. And so then, changing our goals. So we don't think of economic growth as the only goal, because that's the old model. We have to change that, create a new constitution, and codes for a healthy earth is number 4. Vegan donut economics, that we'll talk about that tomorrow from the plant-based treaty people. And rewilding, which is what I'm going to be doing. I mean, I'm going to be going to Sadhana Forest to help to promote this rewilding. And I've told them anytime they want me to come and talk, I'm happy to do that. And vegan spirituality is the 7th action. So the religions of the world have to come together to heal the planet, because the religions of the world are organized at the grassroots. It's the largest grassroots network right now. So inspiring the religions of the world to come together to heal the planet. That's our 7th step. And that's what the Interfaith Vegan Coalition is going to be talking about tomorrow. So these are the 7 strategic initiatives for creating a vegan world. And of course, healing ourselves is number 1. And I've shown you how we can do these 8 things, 8 healing actions. And if we do that as communities, in local communities, we would help each other do this, to make this happen. So here I've taken the 8 risky behaviors from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine and reversed it to show what the 8 healing actions would be. These 8 risky behaviors are currently promoted in the current system because it's responsible for 90% of the healthcare economy. So if you eat a poor diet, you become a customer for the pharmaceutical company. If you don't have physical inactivity, so if you have physical inactivity, you become a customer for the pharmaceutical company. So it's all about trying to create customers for industries, right? And so they have turned us into, fast food consuming people who sit around exercising just our thumbs. That's what they want us to be. And then we'll be great customers for the healthcare industry. So poor diet, physical inactivity, smoking, lack of health screening, poor stress management, insufficient sleep, poor standard of care, and excessive alcohol consumption are the 8 risky behaviors that the American College of Lifestyle Medicine identified as causing 90% of healthcare costs in the world. So when you reverse them, you'll get a healthy vegan diet, regular exercise and yogasanas. From smoking, it's conscious breathing and pranayama. From lack of health screening, it's regular health routines. So doing these things on a daily basis. From poor stress management, it's meditation and awareness. From insufficient sleep, it's adequate rest and sleep, which will happen if we do the first 5 anyway. From poor standard of care, it's a sense of purpose. The purpose is to heal the planet and whatever you can do within that. And from excessive alcohol consumption, it's contact with nature. It's actually surrendering to nature, saying there's no more war. We don't need to fight wars with nature. We are done with that war. We are no longer going to do this. And come into contact with nature. So this is a quantum leap for healing in consciousness. So I say our consciousness, everything we do, all our games and our stories that we tell are either in the egocentric consciousness or ethnocentric consciousness, ethnocentric meaning, my tribe alone and not others, or humanocentric consciousness, where we say all humans are one and we're going to look at the well-being of all humans, or veganocentric consciousness, which is saying not only humans, but also other sentient beings, and then world-centric consciousness, which is more or less like Ahimsa, right? So which is like we are going to look at the well-being of all life and minerals and so on, right? Rocks and minerals and everything. And cosmocentric consciousness, meaning we look at the Earth as just one planet among billions. And so we don't go around killing aliens who show up, so to speak. So that's going from fear, separation to love, connection. And when we go vegan, we are actually doing a conscious jump. So we're doing a quantum leap for healing. And I want to leave you with that thought and ask, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. So thank you so much. Go ahead, watch. Is watch able to unmute?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi. I'm now can. Thank you, Dr. Rao. Great presentation one more time. Yeah. I really want to be happy and celebrate, but sadly, I am very depressed. You see, close to 1 billion people last week were busy celebrating creation of an idol and using animal secretions to worship that idol, and that drama would continue going on around the world. So I want to know from a systems perspective, what can we individuals do to solve this problem? Because I know the concepts which you are conveying are good, but how do you operationalize those concepts? In a few days, most of North America is going to be celebrating football festival with lots of alcohol and animal slaughter products. So if you look at the day-to-day systems, the world is going around with more and more consumption, and even the plant-based meat analogs and plant-based dairy analogs, the companies who own these plant-based meat companies like are JBS and Tyson or Smithfield. So this is very, very discouraging. I know a few of us, like 40 of us on this call, are trying to have animal liberation, but the competition is blowing us out of water, and I don't see an operational strategy for us to reach the vegan world.
Yeah. Well, sorry. Can you mute yourself so I don't get an echo? Yeah. It seems like, it's hopeless because we are being blown away by the elites and what they are doing. But they are facing nature, not just us. Okay? Nature is on our side. Nature is sending a message to the public, to the people on the ground, that there is something really, really wrong. And this is why the New York Times had that article saying that the extinction scare is here. And they're trying to tell them, it's happened like 100 years ago, so don't worry about it. No, people know that this time that this is real. I mean, every time people think it's real, but this time, there is scientific basis for why it is impossible, almost impossible to overcome this with a techno fix like they did last time. Okay. They're looking for a techno fix, I assure you. They're desperately looking for a techno fix, but it's not happening. We are hit the limits. And so it's been 30 years of dithering at the UN, and people are getting impatient. And so they're looking for a real solution. The real solution is what we have to offer. So we have to be stepping up and pointing out that healing ourselves and healing the planet can happen with this one simple switch. So can you make sure that every human being on earth knows that? Let's make sure that every human being on earth knows that. Okay. So everything else is a distraction. Go ahead, Dakota. You're muted.
Oh. There we go. I'm sorry. I tried to unmute and it didn't work at first.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. What it made me think of whenever I get a little heavy or depressed and depleted in my energy, what helps me is I try to focus back on the solution, and I pull away from looking so much at everything that might be going wrong and focus on the solution again. And it usually brings me right back to my joy. And of course, meeting here with you all this weekend is one of those things. And I thank you for that. And yeah, and that I like the analogy you shared, Dr. Rao, with the house fire, because I think like a lot of the people that might want to be immersed in the festivities of the old days and the old traditions might still be in that denial phase of, oh, there isn't any fire, and they don't want to think about it. But they will come along down the road. You know, like I try anyway to go, okay, let me work on the people that know there's a fire and how can we save life. And anyway, thanks for letting me share. Glad to be here today.
Thank you, Dakota. Yeah, storytelling is very important. You know, how we tell the story and how we help people navigate through these. These are difficult times. I mean, and this is not an easy task. Go ahead, Estella.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for the video presentation. And I agree with everything you say. And also, it is very but disappointing to see that all the efforts, like you say, are going the wars against fossil fuels. Even the Pope with the Laudato Deum is just focused on the fossil fuels. Like if there was like a general agenda of the world, as you say, to sell more electric cars, but how do we go against this this tendency of just focusing on the fossil fuels, even in the church, and also it is very overwhelming. I think even if we make like individual efforts, when we learn about the power of the meat lobby or the industries, the multinationals in Brazil, in China, in the United States that are so powerful and are conquering other countries. Like even if some countries reduce their meat consumption, they're going over to conquer other markets, and it's like those pig hotels in buildings with pigs in China. It's just it's very overwhelming. But I keep hope with you that we can reverse this. But what is your opinion about these giants?
And now the giants, they're building, right? So they're building these giant towers and they keep going up and up and up. And you will see that we are actually pulling, it's like Jenga tower. We are pulling some bricks out. We're getting people to change. When you get people to change and they have to go somewhere else to find new pastures, you're making them build on top of holes that are at the bottom. Okay? Because if America shifts, if UK shifts, a lot of that Jenga tower is going to come collapsing down because this is the problem they face. This is why they're scared of us. Okay, don't underestimate our power as people. Ultimately, we gave the power to them, and we can take it back. Okay? That's what I want you to understand. So, the next documentary that we're going to be showing is McLibel. And it shows how two individuals took on McDonald's and won. And I think it's worth watching to understand how they did it. I mean, McDonald's had so much firepower, so much money, and yet they lost. Yeah? So because we have the power. And it's because they depend on us following along with the story that they're telling us. And their stories are getting more and more unbelievable. See, this fossil fuel story, the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty is much older than the plant-based treaty. It's got lots of countries who have signed it, lots of governments have signed it. And yet, if you look at how much fossil fuels are being burned today, we're burning more than we did last year. So it's been going up and up and up, despite all these countries signing everything. Just it's about growing the economy. It's always about growing the economy, right? And whereas when people signed the plant-based treaty, we can actually take action. Because fossil fuels, you cannot take action as individuals. You can start taking action as individuals, and we can actually heal ourselves. And when we do that, we undermine the foundation of this civilization that's altering at the moment. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Go ahead, Ken. Are you able to unmute?
Yes.
Yeah.
For a decade, I've been doing this because of my extended family. There are lots of them. I mean, I have 5 great-grandchildren. So, but this morning you caught me when you talked about the cousins and then the immigration picture, and that's all my family.
Mm-hmm.
And it became very personal for me. And of course, I know when you mentioned the cousins, you're talking about the animals, and
right.
And so because that's the way Kamaya talks about the animals, like her cousins, and I think that image of cousins of our extended family makes it much more personal. Why we're reaching out and the type of passion we bring to it. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Ken. Yeah, for me, the image of Kimaya sitting up in bed and bawling her eyes out, it's seared in my mind. I do not want any child to ever have to do that again. I mean, because realizing that we were killing her cousins, her relatives, was so visceral for her that she was bawling her eyes out. And I don't think any child should ever have to do that. Why are we subjecting our children to such torture? So especially when we eat that, we are actually killing ourselves too. So, I mean, the people who it becomes very personal when that happens to you in your life. Okay, so I'm glad you caught that, Ken, and you see that because we are going to be apologizing to the wild animals. We are going to be taking good care of them in the future, and I have no doubt about it. Thank you, Reverend Carol. You have the last question.
Mute myself. Okay, there we go. I'm so glad, Silas. Can you hear me? Am I
Yes.
talking?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'm so glad that you're calling out the elites. I see comments in the comments. I see people on Facebook. I see people all the time saying we just need to get our leaders to listen to us. We just need to get like the Pope or somebody to understand. This is really a human thing, and we have given up so much of our power to authorities. And I'm a minister. I really think the spiritual path is largely that we restore ourselves as sovereign beings and recognize how much power we have. And I'm so grateful to see that you're emphasizing that, because it's not going to be about getting Congress to understand or getting the heads of state to understand or getting religious leaders to understand. It's just not going to be there. I personally think most of them are corrupt. I may be jaded, but I think that's closer to reality than thinking that they're going to help us. And so I guess I just really appreciate that you're speaking about how we are the ones and that we have the power.
Absolutely. So this is why we organize the Vegan Convergence of the Peoples, where we talk about how we do this ourselves. Because they are stuck in that mode of saying, we'll never give up, we'll never surrender. This is exactly what was going on in the bunker in Hitler in 1945. We'll never surrender, right? And he's moving imaginary armies around, just like our elites are moving imaginary techno-fixes around to see how they can solve these problems. It's not going to happen. I'm a systems engineer. I'm telling you that this system is done. It's over. There is no fix for this. The fires are only going to get bigger and bigger until we, the people, wake up.
Yeah, when you see some of their solutions, like building CO2 capture plants. I mean, it's like a huge plant, not a real plant, like an industrial plant that will capture CO2. It's like, that's obviously, there's money in that. Obviously, that is a money-making venture for somebody when you can just plant trees for the same solution. So yeah, they're nuts. And I think that the sooner we realize that we cannot appeal to any of them. I mean, maybe there are some, but I mean, that's not where the power is.
Right. The power is us, and we have to basically tell the story. We have to do the gumshoe work, go places, talk to our friends, talk to our, so I'd say each one of us has to become extremely active, right? And start forming groups that would heal ourselves and so on. So it is, and I mean, people are buying land and saying, okay, form a community in that land and go and regenerate the forest in that land. And now we have satellite picture that will tell us how well we are doing with that, right? And get more and more people to stop buying, most importantly, dairy. That is the foundation. Okay, if we can topple the dairy industry, we topple the whole damn thing. So, and I'm really excited to listen to Dotsie Bosch this evening, to what she's going to do about that. Yeah. And I don't, I mean, I say that we are reaching out, we are reaching a lot of people. So keep at it, never give up. And yeah, the power is in our hands. Dolly, okay, you have the last word before I turn on McLeibel. You're muted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Dr. Rao. It's been so long. It's so good to see you. And Ray and BJ and everyone there. So good to be with all of you. I just want to say, in my eyes, it's a vegan world already. Your dominant thoughts become your reality. What you think grows. And for me, it's already here. And if enough of us meditate on this, it is so powerful, that God has already done this for us. And so that is my vision already, that it's there. People have already stopped dairy right now, and all our cows and goats and buffaloes, and they're already been saved. And I feel if enough of us can have these thoughts in our head, it does come into fruition. And thank you for doing this, Dr. Rao, and congratulations on the Oxford debate. I saw it. Things like that. It's like it's proof. It's proof.
Right.
So thank you, and good to see everybody.
Thank you, Dolly. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Let me start McLeibel. This is the documentary that I told you, that David takes on Goliath.
Stop streaming.
I'm stopping the live streaming then.
Okay. Pause it, please.